Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV, supported proudly by Adventure Spec in the UK, Rally Raid Products, Giant Loop in the United States, Adventure Moto in Australia, Pirelli Tyres, Motul Oils, RK Chains and Australian Adventure Bike magazine.
Okay, Clubby's got his camera. Got to do some work now. Come on, little Honda.
It was about a year ago since Andrew Clubb, the editor of Australian Adventure Bike magazine, and I tested the mighty Honda CRF 300L Rally. We certainly gave it a workout, and the first thing we found was the suspension was way too soft for our bigger bodies. But apart from that, the bike impressed us. Handling was good, the Honda engine was bulletproof, it could skip along at highway speeds courtesy of an overdrive 6 gear. It had an old style frame that made it easy to bolt on accessories. It was comfortable and had a long fuel range. And finally, it was light to throw around. We both longed to do a bike build on this magic little red Rooster that we firmly believed would become an adventure dragon slayer. Clubby and I aimed to spend no more than 30% of the cost of the bike during the build. I'm pretty sure we're not going to achieve that goal, but let's see how we go. By our reckoning, we've got about $4,000 Australian to spend. A couple of weeks ago, we fitted the Rally Raid Products Level 2 suspension kit to our long-term project bike, our Honda CRF 300L Rally, or affectionately known as the Little Red Rooster. Now, for those that don't like long, drawn-out tests, we'll give it to you straight. The bike has been transformed into an adventure slayer. But don't take our word for it, just have a look at this slow motion. For those interested in a little more information, sit back and relax as I take you on some rocky challenges that take me and the bike out of our comfort zone. Later, Clubby takes the bike on a more realistic 800km adventure and he reports back on his experience, but don't expect any video from him. We'll also review the bike build and consider our next steps. Following recent flooding rains, it's hard to find a place that's dry enough to push suspension to its limits. We managed to find a half-decent jump that demonstrates the suspension responding to the higher speed hits. No bottoming here, and both front and rear behaved well. Could you imagine doing that jump on the standard suspension? As you'd expect, with a jump that high, the full length of the travel was used, but the landing remained reassuring and controlled, with no harsh bottoming of the suspension. So we head up into some gnarly rocky sections, and you might question, well, what's that got to do with adventure riding? I think it's important to demonstrate that what these little bikes lack in power, they more than make up for in agility and the capability to get to those out-of-the-way places. The large rock drop-offs also test the lower speed hits on the suspension.
Hey, the ABS is on.
Just what you want, Dave.
Okay, I muffed it. But again, this is the beauty of having a light bike. You're not going to die. You're not going to get crushed by a machine. Like you go, oh, shit, I've stuffed up.
And you know, each time you've stuffed it up, you haven't had to bail out.
No.
You can hold it up with your legs, can't you?
Yeah, no. Alright, now let's get out the T7 and do that. The 890, the Tiger 900 Rally Pro, maybe a Norden You know, that's the beauty of these little bikes. You're liberated to get to these sometimes spots where you'd look and go, nah, I'm not going to give that a run. And you know that if you fall over, you just pick it back up. It's not going to squash you. So, yeah, anyway, the other thing it showed was, despite it sounding like a small sewing machine, you know, using the clutch and maintaining momentum, you know, the bike will get up anything. I mean, there's not many people who'd want to get up anything more than that during an adventure. The only people I can think of is our American friends on the TAT, Trans-American Trail. There'd be some challenging bits there. But yeah, no, it's good, isn't it? It's bloody brilliant.
On 2 occasions, taking on these slow and bigger drops, I did manage to bottom out the forks. They were instances where, despite my best efforts, my weight was forward, it was a long drop, and the bike was basically landing on its front wheel. I'm confident I can eliminate that bottoming by upping the preload slightly and increasing the compression damping a click or two. You may remember that when we were installing the suspension on the bike, we dyno tested the forks, and we know the suspension responds to even a click worth of adjustment.
So I took 2 clicks out of the rebound and set it at 12 out instead of 10 out.
Yeah.
And it smoothed that line out right here.
Right.
And reduced it all the way through the range by roughly 5 to 8%, I'd say.
Right, so the clickers work?
The clicker definitely works, and that's only 2 clicks, so it's pretty sensitive.
Okay. So when we start adjusting, if we do, we just take our time, just little bits.
1 or 2 clicks at a time, yeah.
Yep.
But on the other hand, these are extreme conditions, and I don't want to potentially compromise the softer end of the suspension for long travel miles. So at the moment, I'm not going to do anything, but if it emerges as a problem, I know I can tune it away with adjustment. Time for some rocky uphill climbs at a little more speed, smashing into sharp-edged ledges. Now this really tests out suspension, as there is nowhere for it to hide. If it's too soft or too hard, or settings are out, the chances of deflection and loss of control are high, as is loss of traction if the wheel bounces and doesn't maintain contact. Again, the Rally Raid suspension was outstanding. I maintained my line, maintained traction, and it climbed like an agile goat. This is extreme stuff, and not many riders would do this on an adventure. But it's proving my point. The suspension is sorted, it was a great investment, and I know this bike can take me anywhere. But what's it like on a longer trip? Time to catch up with Clubby and to see what he's discovered.
Clubby, you're back with the Red Rooster after that long journey out to the west. Now, you know, Nugget gave me the bike and suggested I go to this place, and we both went up there. That was like Erzberg. And, and now,
That's an understatement, Dave.
and now we've come out of that. The little Red Rooster survived, a couple of scratches, but did all right. And now we're back, and you've taken it for a cruise. So,
Yeah, that's right. So I had my fears at that time with you up there. I thought I was just going to be left with just like a smoking sort of hulk of the poor little Red Rooster. But it managed to bound its way out of all that, and then I put it through a 2-day run up over the Blue Mountains from Sydney, 800 kilometres in 2 days, in about 38 hours it took, with an overnight camp out at Mudgee. It was meant to be what we call like a gentlemanly ADV ride with me and a couple of my trusted wingmen, but I got to the meeting point out there on the banks of the no longer flooded Hawkesbury River, and no wingmen to be seen, unfortunately. So it was just me and the Rooster, and we had a ripper run actually. And the good thing about those, when you're riding solo, hey, it's all on you, isn't it, mate? It's your call. If I want a pie there and then I can have it. If I want a snot block at the next stop, or if I just want to motor all the way through the day, I can. And it was actually really awesome on the bike. Where I took it was a range of riding, and the little beast, it just came through with flying colours is the summary, with some real highlights, of course, as you would expect from a small bore bike, but then some not so highlights in other aspects by, again, the virtue of being a small bore bike.
So the thing that I'm interested in with those longer trips is trail feel. So,
you know, those first couple of centimetres of suspension, how did it feel on the tar and the freeway, and you know, those minor dirt roads?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest and say initially, after what you'd put it through up there in the forest on the first ride, I'm thinking, man, it's handled that so well. Is it still going to have the compliance that you want for exactly what you're talking about? And man, it does.
Oh,
like,
brilliant.
I just, from the first minute you get on it, and it's in like two parts. The bike just feels so much better to be on by sitting taller now up here, not down there. So you're confident then that your suspension's there, you've got the suspension that you want. And then like the M2 motorway going out, okay, it's smooth as a billiard table. But then once I got up the Blue Mountains, Old Bells Line of Road, it's all tarmac, but it's as rough as buggery, full of potholes. And then once I turned off at Gardens of Stone, and we can still sneak in through there around Zigzag Railway, and just got on some of the bigger gravel roads there, the thing was just beautiful. It was like really, really planted, controlled, no outright sort of firm edginess on any of the pothole hits or any of the corrugations. It was just unreal, like fabulous. And then that just made me think, man, this is just a package, you know, like for this kind of easy touring compared to then that what I call hard adventure that you were bashing it through up in that rock farm the other day. Like, it's just got the full range of scope, which was awesome.
So you've done the blacktop, you've done the freeway, and then you head into the trails. How'd you go?
Okay, so the first place I took it off the beaten track, so to speak, was right where we were the week before with the Africa Twins.
Yep.
Straight back to those power line trails, and you know, they had all those Woo Boys water bars, lumpy rocks, sand washes. And mate, the thing was so much fun. It was just awesome. Like, there's just twin track fire trails which just go forever up there. And the thing I loved about it again was the range, the scope of performance that the suspension offered. If you wanted to just do it doughy and just flap about slow, it just soaked that up. But then when you want to get up it, you know, with my big fat guts on it, I had a 16 kilo dry bag strapped on the back as well. It just handled that as well, and it just gives you so much confidence on an adventure bike to tackle anything. That's the thing that stands out to me riding this bike up there. And there's gnarly, well, everybody knows it's ridden there, there's gnarly track to be had up there. And the thing it gives you another whole mindset compared to bigger capacity, more powerful, heavier adventure bikes. You can just take on anything on this little bike, you know, and know that if you do end in tears at the end of a trail, you can pick the thing up when it dumps itself, and you can turn it around and you can get back out again. And it was just doing it with a confidence feel that just made me feel confident to tackle anything. And that's the real thing that stands out with the small capacity bikes.
So when we're concluding them with this Rally Raid suspension, which is the level 2 suspension, so it's a little bit taller.
Yep.
How do you think we would have gone on the level 1? For you and I, we're reasonably tall. Would have a shorter suspension, or have we nailed it for us?
Oh, for us, I wouldn't even entertain the shorter suspension.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it sits taller, a lot taller than the standard bike, but the standard bike sits dreadfully low. You know, you wouldn't entertain doing it. What are we? 5'10", about 179 centimetres.
Yeah.
I got no issue getting on it, no issue reaching the ground with both feet, and it's just a confidence-inspiring ride. I think, but the shorter travel, lower package, I don't think is for us.
No.
It'd be that. Yeah. No, I don't know. But that's probably the beauty of the setup that Rally Raid offers, giving the two variants.
Yeah.
For taller, confident, faster, aggressive riders that want the full 250mm travel and the relevant seat height. There is then the option for smaller people that want the improved suspension but without the height of the bike. You've got the level 1 option. So yeah, best of both worlds.
Yeah, so we've certainly hammered it in the extreme. We've certainly hammered it at speed. We've jumped it, bashed it, crunched it, and we've also taken it on a typical adventure, and it's come out with the good. So I think, you know, it was a big investment in terms of our budget that's a little bit blown out now, but nevertheless, I mean, that was money well spent, wasn't it?
Oh, look, it's number one priority with this bike.
Yep.
If you're gonna, you know, like it's two spheres of mind, isn't it? Two lines of thought with this kind of bike. You're either going to load it to the max and travel forever around the world. You're going to have to do something to the suspension.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to play ride with it, but going to hard ride it in tougher, challenging adventure conditions. You've got to do the suspension again.
Yeah.
You can't, like, unless you're going to commute on it and do, you know, lazy one-day forest ventures, you'll get away with the standard suspension. But anything more than that, it's just the best investment you'll make in this bike is attending to the suspension front and rear for sure.
Okay.
So, both of us are giving the Rally Raid products Level 2 suspension a ringing endorsement. It's transformed the bike and the cost was worth it. But this is a long-term build and no doubt we'll have more to say on the suspension as time passes. This concludes our suspension review and we now reflect on the bike build and how it's progressed and our plans for the future. As usual, we've added a couple of bloopers for those diehards.
I stuffed it, Clubby. And once you stuff it, it's all over. Well, let's move on to a couple of accessories that we've put on the bike and just how they're coping. The tyres were really good for me in the rough stuff, but are they the correct fit for this bike if we were doing more that trail, the sort of ride that you did, or would you like a different sort of tyre?
I would say these are pure off-road tyres, which are the Scorpion XCs. Okay, they're the hard compound, hard tread pattern, which is probably going to give us the best fighting chance for durability, longevity, compared to, say, the mids or the soft terrain Scorpions. You know, there's what, 850 kilometres on this rear tyre now. It's, you know, the edges have gone, but there's still plenty of tread depth there, plenty of knob depth there, so there's still another 1,000 Ks to be had out of them, certainly. I'd say, you know, but in brutal honesty, if it was my choice of tyres, I'd go a more dual-purpose tyre. Pirelli have the MT21 in their range, which is a dual-purpose tyre, other brands as well. You know, that would be my choice for what to fit on this bike, for the kind of riding that I would do with it as a normal owner,
B&B bash plate, I'm just looking at that. I mean, that coating, I mean, that got a smashing the other day with me, and that coating is very resilient, isn't it? That black coating, it's amazing.
The PPA coating, it is, and I twice on the last weekend belted the tripe out of that. Once was on a rock ledge, and another time was on with a big lump of log that flicked up into it. And I kept ruining back in my mind to our conversation. You were thinking, oh, do we need a bash plate? It's sitting up so high. And I argued for it. And it's another must-have, and durable butt and all that. And still reckon and make the call, it's still the best looking bash plate for this bike in terms of integrating with the bike's looks, mate.
Yeah, you can't see it from this view that we have now, but it's got like, it's kind of winged, and that protects the rear, the brake, and it also protects the gear lever. It's surprising it actually sticks out more than it looks when you're looking at it.
Yeah, for sure, mate. No, it's a must-have. I'd rate that one too.
So one thing I noticed when I was riding it the other day, I felt I needed bar risers.
Oh, mate, I got to Mudgee, so I left home just after sunup, so about 6:30. Got to Mudgee at 5:30, so 11 hours, and I was basically in the saddle the whole time. And mate, I felt like a caveman when I got there. Every time my knuckles are dragging on the deck, mate, my back was aching. It desperately needs higher bend bars, for sure, higher rise bars, and risers as well. Yeah, it will, you know. And I think it'll take it, mate. I was out there on the overnight looking at all the cable lengths and that, and you'll get it on hose lengths, and it's all doable. It's not like, I don't think there'll be an issue there with cable lengths and that, and it's another must-have.
Yeah, so now we're coming to the end of this build in some regards. So we've got to do those bar risers. We're still tossing up whether to do the ECU, but we do have the Arrow exhaust. It's all here. And we may or may not tie up a dyno test for the bike standard and with the exhaust. We just got to see if we can do that. If we can't, then we'll just fit the exhaust. And mate, apart from that, it's just our giant loop luggage to go then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think just to talk about the motor and the power just primarily, the whole time I was in the bush, I was just wishing for what I call bark. Like this bike, it just doesn't bark, when you crack the throttle, mate. Like at 2,000 revs, there's nothing happening. It's like having a 15-year-old son, mate, at home. At 6 in the morning, 2,000 revs, he's sound asleep, mate. He's not even knowing what's going on in the world. 4,000 revs, maybe he's starting to wake up and figuring
Yeah.
out what's going on outside there. And it's not till 6,000 RPM before something starts happening with this bike, we know, which is a lot of revs to have on
Yeah.
before you've got any sort of barking performance, you know. So, yeah, I hope the exhaust system, because it is the full exhaust system, isn't it, with
Yes,
Arrow?
yeah, full.
I hope that helps, and because it's just what it really needs, because you've got the suspension now to confidently attack, in inverted commas, off-road sections,
Yeah.
and it would just be awesome to have that kind of response, you know.
Yeah, yeah. My little foofy the other day where I went over, I don't know, I was in Husqvarna 300 mode.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, but that's what I
should've-
say.
yeah,
It sucks you into trying that, doesn't it?
It did suck me in. Oh, well, you know, you can't blame your tools, but
Yeah.
but I'm going to.
But then the other thing with the motor, and this is something I'm going to ask you, because I said to you, after you up there riding that rock farm and all those ledges we were filming, and I said, did you ever get out of first gear?
Yeah,
And
I
you
did.
surprised me when you said you were doing a fair bit of it in second gear.
Yeah, and,
know?
and I'll show that to the viewers,
Yeah.
the bit that I was doing. So
Yep.
when you were filming me going up backwards and forwards up
Yep.
those series of rock,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
in second gear.
Second gear, mate, yeah.
Yeah, so, but again, I held it on and I probably had it at around 4.2.
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
just starting to wake up at 4,000
was,
revs, but
yeah.
it's not making power, but it's, starting to think about it, yeah.
But the thing that it had going for it, the suspension was dancing across those
Oh,
rock ledges.
yeah, yeah.
So it had, as you say, it's got a capability
Yep.
beyond the engine now.
Now, oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And then, because the reason that I kind of like harp a little bit about the gearing, it's in my mind that there's got to be scope to play with the final drive ratios on this thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
yeah.
on all the transport, getting out there over the mountains, 110 kilometres an hour on top gear is 6,500 revs on this thing, so it's starting to sing then,
Yeah.
which is a lot of revs for sustained revs, but it'll do it. It's that reliable motor.
Yeah.
It'll do that, but I kind of wondered if we went taller final gearing, that'd bring those revs down.
Yeah.
You know, so it
Yep.
might be running, say, 6,000 revs then out at 110 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
But then I wonder how that would impact the lower end gearing, first, second, third, by being taller. What trade-off there would be, you know. But I think there's a scope to be had in playing with the gearing.
Yeah. I mean, you and I might potentially come into conflict there. I mean, I like the fact that you can do really gnarly crap on it.
Yes, yeah, you don't want to sacrifice that.
Yeah, so when you were talking about gearing then, I was
Yep.
actually talking about just shaving or putting on 2 teeth on the rear
Going up.
going up.
Yeah, but then
which
see,
would-
that'll hammer it for touring
will.
and travelling, you know.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah,
be just
it'll-
revving harder again.
No,
yeah.
you'd be have to sit on around 95,
Yeah,
97
that's it,
k's an
yeah.
hour. So you
Yeah.
wouldn't have your length.
That's right, you know, because like out there, and if anyone that knows Safala region out there on the way out to Mudgee, it's at the bottom of a ravine on a
Yeah.
river. It's just like mountains either side, and on dirt or tar to get out of there. You've got steep climbs. On the tar, I went dirt one way out and then tar coming back.
Yeah.
You know, on steep uphills, I was back to fourth gear
Yeah.
to drag my fat guts up the hill and try and even hold 85 kilometres an hour on it. So
Yeah.
it's all pros and cons, you know, you've got trade-offs for sure.
I know a lot of WR riders who used to keep a countershaft sprocket in
Yeah.
their pocket.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
had a
Yeah.
one tooth
Yeah, sure,
difference.
that makes a big difference.
So one tooth on the front, 4
Yeah,
on the back.
Correct.
So that was their solution, was they just carried this one tooth larger sprocket about.
Yeah.
So when they were out
Yep.
west,
Yep.
that's what they stuck on.
Yep.
If they were doing gnarlier stuff, they just stopped,
Yep.
slid the chain forward,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, well, that's another option, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I think we've done well with our Red Rooster. I'm
Look,
happy with it.
It's a couple of years ago, I rode the 250 version that came out first, and this is the same with just a little bit more motor, of course, a little bit more performance. But I mean, it's got that whole small bore adventure market sort of to itself now, hasn't it? Really,
Yes.
that's
It's
the
nothing
call with
near
it.
it.
And the only issue for the bike is Honda actually landing them here in Australia for customers to take delivery of. The customers have already paid their money, so they'll be itching to get them.
Now, here's a funny thing. The great thing about having a subscriber base of 150,000 is you can ask them questions. So
Yep.
I asked them a question, and I said to them, if you paid 10% more for the bike, would you be willing to do that for better suspension? And the percentage is like 80% willing to do that. And it got me thinking about this word bespoke, and designing bikes so they meet a couple of different purposes. You know, like when you think about that,
Yep.
if you could have a bespoke option of it's $1,000 and you get a better suspension,
A better fork and a better shock. Yeah.
it's just interesting how the punters.
Yeah.
And the other one of interest was, out of all the factors for a motorbike, 80% regarded reliability as number one. And where does this come in? Number one for reliability.
Oh, exactly,
it's
mate. Yeah.
just
There's a zillion of these motors running around Asia in all sorts of Honda motorbikes.
Yeah.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, they're bulletproof.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, you can make this into what you want.
Yeah.
You know, and okay, we've hammered our budget. You know, and I want bigger pegs, you know, but I've got no budget for that now. You know, that's a bit more comfortable.
I'll have to get you bigger pegs. I'll go to the sea.
Yeah, and then we need better handlebars, that's for sure, and that. But it's, you know, the exhaust will be really interesting. We need to put some real resolve into finding what that delivers in the way of performance, because that's another big investment.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think, like you said, Dave, it's just really luggage, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like I had an ADV Works duffel bag strapped up here. Yeah, it weighed 15 kilos with my clothes and all my tools and crap in it, and I could feel it because it's up here.
Yeah.
It's up here. You know, I want something down here.
Yeah, the weight's
got
to be down there.
Yeah, the Coyote. That's just going to be bang on the money there for us for sure. I think.
So giant loop Coyote is probably the best there to
horseshoe
sit
bag.
down. Yeah.
Totally, mate. But mate, look, it's all fun and games. Oh, the other thing too.
Yeah.
The seat. And I reckon Honda must have an absolute mountain of this foam. This seat feels exactly the same as my 1983 model XR350 Honda. You know, and it's awesome for the first 4 hours.
Yeah.
But then after that, you're through it. You're onto the frame rails. You can feel it. So, Seat Concepts. You know, I've used their seats before, and those guys know their seat foam, you know, and they know their shape. And that'd just be gorgeous for doing big, long mile rides as well, mate. Another investment for sure.
Okay, well.
But other than that, Dave, like, it's individual setups, isn't it? And I think it's just cool. At least someone is still putting out an off-road capable, small capacity adventure bike that can just do, do commuter riding or around the world riding, you know.
Without question, that bike is highly capable.
Yeah. And all under 10 grand still, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, plus on roads, so around 10 grand on the road. So if you can get one,
All right, so it gets a big thumbs up from both Clubby and I in terms of the suspension. We've done that a bit well. We continue with the build. A bit more to go yet, and I think along the way there's a bit to learn, you know, as we share our ideas. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing I'm going to add is, can we get a 450cc version, Dave, just to beat that old chestnut again? Like, wouldn't you? The whole time I'm riding this, I'm thinking, oh, if only it had another 150cc's. Oh, if only. Honda, why? Why not?
I think we're all going electrics now. I think reciprocating engines.
Electrics. I'll have to carry a generator with me to charge it out the back of Safala, mate.
Yeah, that's right. All right, mate. Good to hear from you. Good report.
Job, Dave. Yep.
See ya. Okay.
Gotta get on my seat. Hey, you know that BMG bash plate?
It's worth its money.
Work out now.
I'll take credit for that being there, Dave.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's because it popped out.
Oh, God, scared the shit out of me. Oh, Jesus. It's like new. No good stuff. Look at that. No one would ever know.
Those lights, camera action, when I step into the limelight, easily adapted to the high life. Dressed to impress like it's prom night. And when you live in top shelf, you know you gotta set the bar high. Had the same dreams since we was kids. Big trips, big cars, and even bigger cribs. Never thought that it would happen just the way it did. Fast forward that now, it's just the way we live. That's good food and drinks, my mood makes you think that this life's made for a king. The room starts to shake, so smooth if you blink, you might just miss the whole thing.
So Clubby, how did you go out there?
Oh, mate, it was awesome. The imagery, gold. Kodak gold, I'd call it.
So, got some video for us for the suspension test?
Video.
You know, moving pictures, you know.
Stills pictures. I've got lots of them. Heaps of them. Magazine. Printed paper.
No.
No? Are you with me, Dave?
Yeah, I am. Well, I hope they're still...
Whoopsie, Clubby. That was a good whoopsie. having said that, I landed on that. And it did alright. It's just popped out down the bottom. But my 360 GoPro
What's happened?
got smashed to bits.
Oh, don't. What are you doing today, son?
Yeah, it just fell and landed on the lens.
Oh, mate.
Oh well. A costly day for filming.